calling for an inquiry into cases where children have been adopted without their parents' consent. Campaigners say the government wants adoption rates increased and is offering councils huge cash incentives. As a result, as many as 90 children may have been wrongfully adopted. We'll be talking to the Liberal Democrat MP Norman Lamb in just a moment. But first, we're joined now from Cromer in Norfolk by Mark and Nicky Webster and little Brandon. Now, following allegations of abuse, their eldest 3 children were taken away and adopted. And for legal reasons, we can't name those children. But good morning to you both. And if I could talk to you first of all, Nicky. You believe that your children should not have been taken away. Could you just explain for us why you take that view?
Well, it all began in November 2003, and our children were taken away purely because our eldest son, child B, who we can only refer to as that, he suffered some fractures, and we couldn't explain them.
You can explain them how?
They just... Sorry?
How do you explain those fractures?
Well, we had no explanation for them at all. We couldn't think of any significant accidents that he'd had or anything like that. We just raised the issue of the fact that he wouldn't eat and he was lactose intolerant, and also that my family has a history of brittle bone disease. Yeah,
I think it's since been established, or not established, but it's been suggested anyway, that the child in question was suffering from scurvy, which could have caused the bones to break even with normal handling. And it's also a fact that little Brandon came along later, and the local authority had no problem with you keeping and looking after him.
No, because we were able to demonstrate that we were good parents. You know, we had the opportunity to do so this time around. We refused that option in the first case.
Right. Now, obviously, I mean, this must be a terrible situation for you, being separated from your children in this way. How are you coping with that, the two of you?
Well, being perfectly honest, the only thing that keeps us going is Brandon. You know, he keeps us going every day, and we're just striving to be able to get some kind of contact for him with his siblings.
Right, we're just going to pause you there, the two of you. Thank you very much indeed, little Brandon. We've got Norman Lamb alongside us. Norman, on the face of it, this looks like an appalling injustice. However, one has to say, all of these cases, not just that one, all of these cases are hideously complex, and this is no exception, is it? I mean, and there is a view held by the local authority that actually... let me put it this way, the jury's out. I mean, there are varying medical opinions as to the cause of those brittle bones.
Well, the local authority is no longer pursuing its argument that the child was abused. I mean, they have themselves got medical evidence which points to scurvy being the explanation. So I think this is a case of a gross miscarriage of justice. And it doesn't get much worse than innocent parents losing their children, losing them for good. They've been adopted now, they've gone. And I think the system owes it to a family like the Websters to investigate how the system operates.
Are you seriously suggesting that because the government, in recent years anyway, has offered councils cash to encourage them to get more children adopted, children are being adopted, not illegally, but in an unjust way?
I'm not saying that in any particular case the cash was the reason why the children were adopted, but it does introduce an incentive which I don't think should be there. I think that the cases should be determined purely on the facts of the case.
But isn't that, you see, I mean, I've had a little bit of experience of how these things are determined once in a previous professional life, and watched social workers and caseworkers try to resolve these issues to decide whether a child should be adopted or not. It is a devilishly difficult job.
It's incredibly difficult, and social workers are damned if they do, damned if they don't. But I think in this case the family wasn't really listened to. The health professional who knew the family, the health visitor, said that she didn't believe it was abuse. The head teacher of the oldest child believed that the family wasn't capable of abuse. They weren't listened to.
And there are more like them, you think?
And this was all determined in one day in court, behind closed doors.
Yeah, but that's what family courts are about. Well, I mean, you know,
yes,
do you really want family courts open to the public with all personal details exposed to all and sundry?
There should be anonymity protected, but it should be open to public scrutiny, and last year the government argued that it should be opened up. I believe in open justice, subject to proper protections for the families. They're closed at the moment in this country, and I think that means that miscarriages of justice can happen behind closed doors without anybody knowing what's going on. Which no one in an ideal
world would want, but it is difficult, as you yourself acknowledge. OK, Norman, thanks very much. Thanks to you, Mark, and Nicky, and little Brandon. Now, you're going to be talking to the folks a little bit later on as well. Norfolk County Council have provided us with a statement which I've more or less covered anyway. There it is on the screen for you. So they've always endeavoured to explore in a fair and measured way within these proceedings all of the issues raised by Mr and Mrs Webster surrounding the allegations of non-accidental injury in respect of child B. Medical reports have been sought during this process and every avenue has been explored. It's now abundantly clear that child B does not and never did have brittle bones, which we have established. I don't think is indeed a point of contention anymore. Thanks very much, Dean Norman. Thank you, folks.